Hello and welcome to Cris Tales. My name is Derek Neal, and I am very excited to present to you this upcoming indie RPG. We call it our love letter to the classic JRPGs of the past, and by that we mean that this game takes a lot of inspiration from classics like Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasies 4 and 6, Super Mario RPG, and more. But it also has a lot of its own style, personality, and charm. Rather than just copying those games, we've done our best to build upon the elements that we thought made them great, to create something new and surprising for players to explore. Fans of classic JRPGs will feel right at home with Cris Tales, but they will also quickly learn that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. Speaking of what meets the eye, the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is just how beautiful this game really is. Everything is completely hand-drawn, hand-animated frame by frame in the traditional style, layered on top of itself to create the illusion of 3D movement in this world. I'd also like to introduce you to our heroine, Crisbell, who is a young orphan girl from the city of Narim. She recently had her rose stolen from her, and she has traced it all the way here to this cathedral. And this is where something strange happens. Crisbell has a vision, and she suddenly realizes that she has special powers that most people don't. You see, Cris Tales is first and foremost a game about the experience of, interaction with, and manipulation of time. And elements of time manipulation permeate virtually every element of this game. And we will go over a lot of those in this demo, and I'll show you many different ways in which time mechanics interact in unique ways. One of the first of those is what you see before you right now, which is Crisbell's ability to see the past, the present, and the future, all in real time, all on one screen, all at the same time. So on the left you have the past, where you can see the statues being built, and on the right you have the future, where you can see they're sort of overgrown with vines. Of course, this isn't just buildings and things like that, but the people, the places, the towns, the artifacts, everything that makes up the culture that these people live in. So for example, here on the left we have Old Lady Magda, who was a young, handsome woman in the past. And on the right we have young Marco, who in the future grows up to be a strapping teenager. Every single element in this game has been built at least 3 times, and many of them 20, 30, or more times, because there are also things that you can change about the past or the present in order to change things in the present or the future. And I'll be giving you some examples of that in just a little bit. As we come down here, we'll see a part of the city that has been destroyed in the future. This is the apothecary shop on the left, and the miller's house on the right.
Miller's house and the apothecary shop! They've been destroyed!
Fortunately, we are time mages, and we don't have to just wait for these visions to come true. We can try to do things to affect them. And so we're going to come over here on the left, past Miss June, and we're going to speak to Carpenter Joe, who was a strong young man, many years ago, now is kind of old and sickly, and in the future, well, things don't turn out so well for poor old Joe. Anyways, we're going to talk to him and see if he has any insight about the destruction of these houses.
Yeah. Good morning, I guess.
So the carpenter lets us know that ash blight, this rot that infects the houses, is typically responsible for this stuff, and if we want to fight it, we need some green leaf tonic. He suggests we talk to the apothecary, Miss June, about that. So we're going to talk to her, but in classic JRPG style, she's going to want some help of her own before she'll help us out with our quest.
Why would someone do this? This will take forever to sort out.
So poor Miss June has had the labels on some of her mushrooms go missing, and as a result she can no longer tell which are the deadly ones and which are the benign ones that go good on salads. So Crisbell vows that she'll help her out. And so one thing that you might try to do is take a look in the past and see where the labels were in the past. Unfortunately, what you'll see is that actually it's blocked in the past, so you can't really see it because there's this box. However, what we can do is send our buddy Matthias the Frog here into the past, where he becomes a tiny little tadpole, and in this mode he can walk around and interact with the people, the places, and the things of the past. And in this instance he can actually push this box aside. And reveal the information that we're looking for.
Well, this one has a skull on it. I imagine this is the death cap.
Having done that, we can now take that information back to the present, and we can now go retrieve the missing label, which we happen to know these kids stole, and bring it back to poor Miss June.
This is a...
June, we found your label.
So now that we've helped her out, Miss June will help us out with our quest. And so we ask her about the green leaf tonic, and she tells us that we'll need some glow fruit in order to be able to make green leaf tonic. Fortunately, I know where some glow fruit happens to be. This is the world map. Like I mentioned, this is a classic JRPG, so it does have world map, vehicles, inns, shops, turn-based combat, which I'll be showing off in a little bit as well.
Here's the tree I planted, but the fruit is going to take forever to grow.
Of course, in this specific instance, before we get there, we need to recover some glow fruit. What you'll see here is that this tree does not exist in the present. It only exists in the future. But of course, we can send our buddy Matthias the Frog here into the future, where he's old and fat. He can get the glow fruit, retrieve it, and bring it back to us in the present. Now we can take the glow fruit back to June in order to get that green leaf tonic that we've been looking for.
I have glow fruit. Will one be enough?
And so now that we've given the apothecary the glow fruit, she's given us the green leaf tonic.
Well, there's a...
Unfortunately, we have another problem here. There's only one dose of tonic, and there's 2 houses that are ruined. So we have to make a decision. Do we save the apothecary shop? The town's medicine comes from here. What about poor Miss Miller? You know, she has a young daughter who's going to grow up, and it looks like she's pregnant and has another one on the way in the future. Which of these 2 should we save? I'm going to choose to save Miss Miller in this instance.
Hello, Crisbell.
And what you'll see is that by making this decision in the present, it actually changes the future. Keep an eye on Miss Miller's house on the right. These kinds of changes and decisions that you can make permeate all throughout the story. There are so many different things that you can interact with in the past and in the future, and I'll be showing you many of those things as we move along here. The kinds of decisions that you can make in this game range from very small, like the color of a house, to things that impact the futures of entire kingdoms. And so I'll show you some of those differences right now. So if we come up here, we can see young Bernard, who is trying to make a living right now as a street performer. In the past, you'll see he always loved to play his violin. You'll see that in the present, he's trying to eke out a living. And in the future, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's worked out, and he is forced into a life of crime. But depending on what happens to him, that future could change, as you see here. Now, not all choices are small in Cris Tales. Some decisions may affect the future of entire regions, and there are many decisions to make. Which decisions are actually available depend on which sets of side quests that you've done. And this is what I mean when I say everything in this game has been built not just 3 times or 4 times, but some of the things have been built 20 times because they can have multiple different futures, they can be different colors, they can be underwater or not underwater. And what you're seeing here is that certain areas of the city that used to be destroyed and decrepit have become nice and upscale, and other areas of the city that used to be nice and upscale have become old and decrepit, bringing a bit more of a balance to the city that used to be one very poor area and one very rich area. So those are some examples of how the time powers work. Let's go ahead and move on to the combat. So here are the enemies we'll be facing in this random battle. As you can see, this is a traditional turn-based JRPG. So at the top of the screen, we have a turn order bar that shows you the sequence in which each of the characters will be acting. We have enemies on both the left and the right, and you can choose to attack in either direction. You can also use skills and spells, use items to heal your party members, defend or pass your turn so that someone else can act. So in this case, we'll go ahead and pass our turn so that Wilhelm can act. In addition to these sort of standard elements of JRPG combat, we also have an attack enhancement and defense system that's based on timing button presses as you attack or defend yourself from enemy attacks. So for example, if I attack this enemy on the right, and I press the button right before I hit them, he'll do a follow-up attack that will do additional damage. It'll do more damage the better my timing is, and in that instance I got a critical hit. Here you can see I defended myself from the enemy's counterattack. I got it deflected. That's not the best version of it, but the better your timing is, the more of the damage you'll actually reduce. And of course, it's not just regular physical attacks that can be enhanced this way. Spells and abilities can also be enhanced, and doing that can change the properties of those spells and abilities. So for example, I can use Christopher's Fireball spell on this enemy, and if I successfully enhance it here, which I did, it will light that enemy on fire, and now it's taking damage turn over turn. So in addition to the enhance system, we have another system which is basically Crisbell being able to use her time powers in combat to affect her enemies. So Cris Tales is fundamentally a game about manipulating and controlling time. So for example, we can send this enemy that's on the left into the past, making it into a younger version of itself. It's weaker, but quicker in this particular state. And different enemies have different benefits, or sometimes it's not at all beneficial even, to send them into the future or into the past. So for example, you might have a young dragon that if you send it into the past, it's just an egg, but if you send it into the future, it's a powerful dragon that's going to kick your butt. So you sort of have to plan strategically as to what you want to do given which enemies are on which side of the battlefield. I'm going to go ahead and attack this enemy here. And it looks like Wilhelm's getting a little bit low, so I'll heal him up real quick. Here we go. And now we will defend ourselves. So this is a multi-part attack. I have to defend against it multiple times in a row. And so now it's Crisbell's turn again, and we can use her time powers again. So this time, I'm going to send the enemy in the right into the future. And that is going to make it an older version of itself, yes, but that enemy is also currently on fire. And so when I send it into the future, what do you think is going to happen? Well, in the future, it's already taken all of that fire damage. And so that damage all comes in and hits it at once as one giant burst. And of course, this doesn't only work with fire, it works with regen spells and things like that, poison, as well as other more off-the-wall things. So for example, in the public demo that we have out there, there's an enemy that can only be defeated by rusting its metal shield by first getting it wet and then sending it into the future. Similarly, you can have plants that will grow much bigger if you first use a water spell on them and then send them into the future. So there are many different interactions between Crisbell's time powers and the various status effects and ailments that can be applied to enemies during combat. Now, this is not the only system that adds complexity and depth to what's going on in the combat. There's actually more even on top of just this. So there's also a system called the Synchro system, and there I failed to defend myself. But there's also a system called the Synchro system, which I'll be showing off now, which allows Crisbell to use her time powers to speed up an ally so that he can create crazy combos. So for example, here we'll invoke the Synchro with Wilhelm and do his Yucca Rain and have him heal the party and send a whole bunch of exploding plant bombs at this enemy over here. And so here you'll see Crisbell using her time powers to accelerate Wilhelm and let him take a whole bunch of actions all at once. Boom. And so we can go ahead. You'll notice when you're attacking across time, you send out an astral projection of yourself as well. So the Synchro system allows Crisbell to set up combos with her different characters. So for example, Christopher here has a water spell which gets enemies wet and makes them more susceptible to lightning, and also has a lightning spell. So you can set up a combo with him that involves starting with the water spell and then proceeding into the lightning spell for extra bonus damage, and then you can follow up, or you could light the enemy on fire and then follow up by sending them into the future with Crisbell, things like that. These systems provide a huge number of possible interactions between all of the different characters, and a huge number of different ways in which you can approach each battle. Of course, this is only a small glimpse into the full game. The final product will be over 20 hours long and contains dozens of enemies, unique, powerful bosses, and a complete world full of different kingdoms to explore. We hope you're as excited to experience it as we are to be bringing it to life. Thanks, and have a great day.